about from a Spurs perspective? Because, Carver, you've just said, you've already said that, there's not really much more Spurs could have done. But, Jeff, for the Spurs fans, they've already lost out on Morgan Gibbs-White, who was, the replacement for James Maddison's injury. Now they've lost out to Eberechi Eze as well. But not only that, they've lost out to their North London rivals, so they're not going to be happy at all with this, are they? No,
I think that's the biggest thing, losing out to their rivals. It's gonna sting a little bit, and now they've got to go back to the drawing board and find another replacement really for Maddison out for the season. So it's going to be tough for them to take.
And with that James Maddison injury, they've known for a while, Carve, that he was going to be out, did his ACL and out for a significant period of time. So could they have got this Eze deal over the line sooner? And now that they haven't, are there many options? Andy Brassel, European football expert, said earlier that maybe Brahim Diaz was an option, but it doesn't feel like there are huge names jumping out at them right now after missing out on their top two targets.
I think the first part of your question, could Spurs have done more? I've heard a lot of Spurs supporters say, why didn't we just trigger his release clause? Because he had a release clause until last Friday, until the Premier League season started. You could sign Eze for, I think, 60 plus 8, so a total of £68 million. So why didn't Spurs just do that? Because they've known for ages they need a replacement for James Maddison and they want the player. Why didn't they do that? If they'd done that, he'd be a Spurs player now. But we don't know exactly what Spurs did. Behind the scenes, Spurs may have made it clear to Crystal Palace that we are willing to trigger the release clause, but the player himself might have been saying, well, hang on a second, I'm not sure. He may have been dragging his feet because he may have known that there was a possibility that Arsenal could come in for him. And also, we don't know what the release clause exactly was. Would it have involved paying the whole sum up front? Is that why Spurs waited? Because they didn't want to do that? It's not as easy. Yeah. We're not playing Football Manager. This is like real life. This is like really, really complicated. These transfers are really complicated. I think the problem that Spurs had in this case is they did everything they could to sign the player, but unfortunately, the player's an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
And if Arsenal came calling, it was always very, very likely that he would end up at Arsenal.
Yeah, and I suppose Eze probably wants to win the Premier League title sooner rather than later, and I think Arsenal are just in a better position to do that right now. But, Jeff, I want to talk to you about Richarlison because it was reported that he was included in the deal for Eze that Spurs sort of put forward. How would you have felt if that had happened to you?
If I was Richarlison?
Yeah, if you were Richarlison and he's playing well, he's keeping Dominic Solanke outside, scored a couple against Burnley, 2 very good goals.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough for him to take, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm surprised at that myself, but then, yeah, you'd feel let down a little bit. Like you said, he's playing really well. I've watched him in a few games, at the PSG game and all, and I think he's a fantastic player. He works hard. He scores goals, he's fit, he's strong, so I'm surprised that they were trying to put him in part of the deal. But yeah, maybe he won't be happy with that, and it could cause a bit of tension, I suppose, between him and the club.